Hi everyone. Waiting to board a plane, returning from my recent trip to Israel in July. Someone told me a story that's on my mind today. It seems that he had met a person who, for various reasons, found himself in a drab development town in Israel on Simchas Torah many years ago. Making his way down to the local municipal synagogue, he noticed the shul members dancing around with Torah scrolls, singing and making a lot of Yom Tov noise and merriment. Suddenly, at the height of the singing and merriment, the dancing stopped. A hush fell over the shul, and an elderly gentleman disappeared behind the Aron Kodesh. 2 short minutes later, he emerged with a wooden plank, about 3 feet long. He carried that plank to the middle of the shul, as everyone drew back. He then placed the plank on the floor, right in the middle of the shul. Slowly, he started to walk around the plank, round and round, over and over. And then, as if summoned to some atheistic ritual, he motioned to 2 other elderly gentlemen to join in. And they did, walking around and around in silence. Everyone stood there in total silence and watched. After a couple of minutes, they stopped. The first man picked up the plank and he returned it to its place behind the Aron Kodesh, and the shul returned to the typical Simchas Torah scene of before, dancing and singing as though nothing had happened. The visiting man went up to the old man who took out the plank and asked bluntly, "What just happened? What's going on here?" The older man told him, "You don't understand. During the war, me and those other 2 guys, we were all together in the same camp. Before Hoshana, by some miracle, someone managed to smuggle a Sefer Torah into the camp. We were terrified. We knew that if the Nazis caught us, that was the end. And so we pulled up a wooden floorboard and we hid the Sefer Torah under it in the floor. And when Simchas Torah came, there was just no way. The Germans were everywhere. There was no way we could risk taking out the Sefer Torah. And so we just walked round and round in silence around the plank under which the Sefer Torah was hidden. And so now every year, the height of our joy on Simchas Torah is when we walk around that plank to remember the similar story that happened in the concentration camps and how it plays out today." Thinking about the story, it seems as if the entirety of Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret season is built upon one central idea, that of the circle. On Sukkot, and especially today, Hoshana Rabba, we move around the bima in remembrance of the circles that the Kohanim used to make around the Mizbeach during the time of the Beis Hamikdash. And our kafos of Simchas Torah too wind around and around in a circle. The shape has significance, but what is that significance? And also, what about the Torah reading cycle? A circle that's also completed on Simchas Torah and then immediately restarted. Frankly, what are we supposed to make about that? Rav Hutner Zatzal compares the situation to 2 people who work for a king. One of them mops the floors of the palace, and the other is his most trusted advisor for national affairs. Now, each of them makes a mistake when performing their respective jobs. On a human level, the severity of their actions may be equally reprehensible. It's even possible that the custodian's infraction might be worse than that of the national minister. However, the ramifications of the mistake of the advisor will generally be much more consequential than the one who mops the floors. And similarly, as Rav Hutner, when we do tshuva, we can fix the mistakes we made on a human level, like the custodian. We can regret what we did and do our best that those mistakes should never happen again. Yet, there are consequences to our actions that only Hashem knows. These can't be fixed simply through tshuva. We still haven't rectified the original sin of Adam and Chava and the ramifications that are made by those ministers, or of the Chet HaEgel, the golden calf. It's only when we make the hakafos, when we go full circle, that we have the opportunity to rectify some of our averos. When we go around in a circle, we come back to the same place we started, but we come back as a different person. We come back to our roots. We noted a similar idea this past Pesach in our Shirashirim symposium, when we noted the observation of Rav Adin Steinsaltz Zatzal that Shirashirim, which is the description of the bond that we, as Hashem's beloved nation, share with him. That description, Shirashirim, has no beginning and no end, because according to Rav Steinsaltz, and all the seeking and fumbling mentioned in the song, in the partings and the comings together of the protagonists, all questioning and wondering, there's one thing that is certain: the deep connection between the lover and the beloved on all of the levels of the account. There's never any doubt that the two are destined for one another and bound to each other. Throughout the winding threads of their fortunes, their partings and their reunions, we're never left uncertain about the indissoluble bond between them. The central message then is how after the tormented searching, after the waiting and the parting, there is fulfillment. Yes, Rav Steinsaltz tells us, we're always making circles in our relationship with Hashem. Sometimes we're at one end and Hashem's at another. Sometimes we're in one place and Hashem is in another. But one thing's clear: we are forever bound together, like the circle of an engagement ring that puts us together. Rameses Shapiro, the famous founder of the Daf Yomi movement, has a similar idea about the Hakafos of Simchas Torah. He notes that our Galus experience can be described as one long Hakafa. We took the Torah with us out of Eretz Yisrael, and we took it all across the world to the most faraway places. And while there, it has been that very same Torah that has sustained us and kept us strong. And eventually the Torah will come full circle, and we with it. And we will return to Eretz Yisrael, and it will return to Eretz Yisrael with you and with me. And so it's only proper that in the instances of Hakafa, in the darkness under the floorboards, and in the beauty at the center of the shul, in the center of the Jewish communal life, wherever it is, that we dance in a circle, committing to renewing our bond with the Torah and the Torah's messages with a deeper understanding, with a deeper commitment. Just like the new circle drawn upon the older circle, when we go over it again, we make it darker, stronger, and bolder. But to make a circle dark, bold, and strong, it needs to have a center that all the different elements can commit to. In the circle of Hashem, it's He who is at the center, and each of us commits to that center from our particular place on the circle. In the Beis Hamikdash, this was symbolized by the Mizbeach, which everyone went around on Sukkot, strengthening the bond that we each share with Hashem. And in Galus, in our exile, it's the shul that we sit around and protect, as it provides the modern equivalent of the rendezvous point with Hashem that the Mizbeach did in the Beis Hamikdash. And like the circles on paper, a shul needs our support, physically with our presence and activity, and financially as well, to maintain upkeep and foster growth, so that we too can continue to make our circles strong and deepen our personal and communal bond with Hashem. You know, traditionally on the last days of Yom Tov, appeals were held in order to inspire the people to help with the tzedakah needs of the community. And we've used that opportunity to highlight our loved ones who encouraged us to be charitable, and thus Yizkor was born. Well, this Yontif, I ask that you help us continue our mission of being a rendezvous point for everyone in the community, providing multiple opportunities for us to engage in communal tefillah, regular shiurim and chavrusa programming that go far and wide, an outstanding youth program and sisterhood that works to bring chesed beyond the boundaries of our shul, and general social programming with a purpose. Help us maintain our mission. This Yom Tov, join the circle, make it darker, make it bolder. Support Adas Yisrael. When people find themselves going in circles, it usually means that they're experiencing a lack of progress, repeating the same processes over and over again. But as Torah Jews, we have a different approach to circles. When, as Adas Yisrael, we go around in a circle, we may come back to the same physical location, but we come back with the experience of having just traversed the circle. It's that experience that allows us to come back to our roots and to look forward to a time when our nation can come full circle once again and return to Eretz Yisrael. And so it's my sincerest hope and dream that this Yom Tov will be the last one that we celebrate Simchas Torah in our shul. And may it be God's will that we be led by our Torah, L'Tzion Berina, and we get the chance to make a different set of Hakafos. Anenu Hashem Anenu, Biyom Korenu, Chag Sameach to all.